We got a busy show. We got Jesse Ventura coming back.
Oh, really?
The last time he was in here...
I was a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
And there's a conspiracy that you don't know about. Well, how do you know about it? I was a Navy SEAL. How long ago? Before or after you wore a feather boa and fakely punched people?
You can say that when he's here.
Yeah.
You know, I won't. That's why I'm saying it now, Jim.
I like to see
Don't blame
him.
you.
I don't do the same joke twice.
I like to see him fakely punch you when he gets here.
Fakely.
I think it won't fakely hurt whatsoever.
His giant mitt. Yeah, there's a picture of him with his feather boa.
Well,
Just have that up when he comes in. Remember that guy? What happened to him? How was anyone taking him seriously?
He had a lot of fun. He was a fun guy. That version.
He was. That version was a lot of fun.
Didn't he pretty much threaten us the last time he was in here? Or
I think he
little
threatened
Jimmy?
Threatened Jimmy with well, you gotta sleep sometime, I think was the line, which meant that Jimmy should have had his throat slit in his sleep by Jesse Ventura, which would have been odd.
You could have sued Jimmy.
I don't know. For what? Sleep deprivation?
Right. Yeah, Sue, go. I haven't slept since you were here last.
I've
Thanks
been
a
awake
lot.
for 18 months, Jess.
But Jimmy always has what he likes to call a tranny shield on him, just in case anybody comes in at night. No? Nothing?
Nah, it was funny.
I was tripping over
I know you were.
My tongue isn't working yet.
You fumbled drunkenly into the room with that one.
Humana. Well, Jesse Ventura was...
late. Bob Eatman.
Yeah, we'll get into the Bob Eatman thing in a second. Jesse Ventura on Larry King, just to set up the big interview with the Opie and Anthony show today. He had a lot of things to say about torture. That's the big one now.
Huh.
I think he's moved past the 9/11 stuff for a little while, and now he's all about torture,
waterboarding,
the waterboarding,
right,
and whatnot.
He's very likable. Oh yeah, admit, very intelligent, which is a change from our previous president.
Talking about me.
All right, already with Bush, okay?
He's talking about Obama, how Obama's intelligent and blah blah blah.
Oh, great!
And he's still taking shots at Bush. Pretty much everyone has moved on from Bush, right?
Yeah, except
leave the
for
guy alone now.
except for the real hardcore left wing people. Jeanine Garofalo will still throw out a barb every so often.
She's terrific.
Oh, isn't she wonderful?
On her bad side.
Ugh. God.
Ugh. She might hit us with her notepad in between jokes that she's just trying out.
I bet she has hairy armpits.
You think?
Yeah, she's too cool to shave.
Who was saying recently they think she's like kind of hot? It was somebody on our show.
Well, no, I remember seeing her in
Danny said there was a really movie hot and wants to have sex with her.
No, I said that there was a movie that probably came out in like the early 90s and she wasn't that bad in it.
Which one?
I don't know. I'd have to go check it out, but she wasn't
Copland?
that bad. No, I don't think so. I don't know what it was.
I thought she was cute.
She was all right
years
in
ago.
a couple movies.
You guys are crazy.
When she first kind of broke, she was on an HBO Young Comedian special years ago.
Oh, yeah?
I remember liking her when she was on. Yeah.
Well, let's see what Jesse is saying.
He's very likable. Oh yeah, admit, very intelligent, which is a change from our previous president. All right, already with Bush, okay? No. I live in Mexico now, Larry, so I do a lot of reading. I don't watch much TV, and this year's reading, I covered Bush's life, I covered Guantanamo, and a few other subjects, and I'm very disturbed about it. I'm bothered over Guantanamo because it seems we've created our own Hanoi Hilton.
Oh.
And we can live with that. I have a problem.
Yeah.
I will criticize President Obama on this level. It's a good thing I'm not president because I would prosecute every person that was involved in that torture. I would prosecute the people that did it. I would prosecute the people that ordered it because torture is against the law.
Shut up! He's coming in here with that drivel?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Christ, I'm gonna get hit. I am just going to get that big meaty fist in my face, and I know it.
He likes to argue. He loves it.
If he was he'd prosecute, that's good. That really keeps our country safe, you dummy.
You know what?
I've read. And he's going to start the whole thing. Do you read books? Shut it. I live in Mexico now. Good. Stay there.
Save it for when he gets in here, my friend.
No, I'm saying it now so I don't have to say it again, and I have the excuse that I said it already.
All we should talk about is his movies.
Yes.
Nothing topical.
That's great. You know, you were fantastic. How was that machine gun to hold in Predator? Was that heavy? Was it a prop gun?
Mm-hmm. Hold on a minute. We got a very good question coming in from Greg on Long Island.
Greg?
First laugh of the morning from Greg on Long Island. Go ahead, Greg.
How you doing?
Good.
So now you're standing out in front of Larry King's studios like a pack of wild dogs.
They're taking my guests.
That's where you're getting them from now?
I can't stress the nonsense that we have to deal with. The complete nonsense.
Hysterical.
Howard actually said that we're standing outside his studio like wolves stealing his guests.
Stealing the guests.
And we have to sit here and just listen to this nonsense.
Nah.
We call it nonsense. Ugh. Let's say hi to Dustin in Texas. Dustin.
Hey,
Hey, man.
hey! When Ventura comes in, ask him about his global warming theory. I heard him on another show saying he could prove global warming because of the thermometer on his rearview mirror of his truck.
That's wonderful.
All right, write that one down, Dan. We got to ask him about global warming.
Is it a gag? Is it a bit? Is it a work?
Oh, no.
What's he
No,
doing?
he said,
What's he doing? It's a work, right? Vince is going to hire him back as the kooky politician guy that gets in and hits people with chairs.
No, he said when he sits in traffic, his thermometer on his rearview mirror goes up, and when he goes down the road, he goes back down. So that obviously proves that global warming is real.
No, it proves that when you're sitting in traffic on pavement, that the ambient temperature around your vehicle will rise. It's like if you walk. I got it. Listen to this guy. He knows it all. You son of a bitch. It's like walking on on grass as opposed to walking on blacktop. Mm-hmm. It's going to be warmer, but it doesn't mean you're warming the entire environment.
You got to get him to spit that out because he believes it. I mean, he was serious. He was dead serious.
All right, cool.
You could go to a pristine part of the world that is untouched by human hands, and certain parts of it over maybe a meadow, the temperature will be cool. Certain part over rocks that the sun are beating on will be warmer. It's just the way it is. What is he talking about?
How about we start with New York City? In the summertime, it's way hotter than than in the suburbs because that heat's just bouncing off all the
global warming.
all the
it's
concrete,
ambient temperature around structures and things like that. It's not changing the environment's temperature or on a global level.
All right, Dustin. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Okay.
And then Jesse had this to say on Larry King. Now we're into the waterboarding thing.
And you were a Navy SEAL.
That's right, and I was waterboarded. So I know at SEER school, survival, escape, resistance, evasion, it was a required school you had to go to prior to going into the combat zone, which in my era was Vietnam. All of us had to go there. We were all, in essence, every one of us was waterboarded. It is torture.
Now, what's it like?
It's drowning. It gives you the complete sensation that you are drowning. And it's no good because I'll put it to you this way. You give me a waterboard, Dick Cheney, in 1 hour, and I'll have him confess to the Sharon Tate murders.
Hell of an allegation he's making there.
That's pretty funny, though. He didn't say the Manson murders.
Yeah.
He,
he was waterboarded. He said it himself. It's the sensation of drowning. He's not. He's alive. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody died during the waterboarding that the CIA did to these criminal fucking terrorists. What is with this guy? Some people just want another 9/11 type scenario, I guess, in this country. They've completely forgotten what September 12th was like. They've completely forgotten what it was like to sit back and go, did that really happen yesterday? Or was that like fake? And then you realize, no, my God, that really happened. Well, now we have to do something so that never, ever happens again. The horror, the feeling of helplessness that you felt watching the buildings collapse, the Pentagon get hit, people on a jet plane crashing into the ground and into building, the horror they must have felt, the sadness of an actual attack on the United States. People just fucking forgot that. They just all forgot it. Waterboarding, I would prosecute every single one of them. Shut up. Why?
Save it for Jesse.
So that they could go back, let them all out. Let them all out of Guantanamo. Let them all get back and regroup and attack us again. That's a great idea. You have that fucking feeling in your gut. Where the fuck were you when that happened? Were you a Navy SEAL at the time? No, we were in fucking New York, asshole. We were here at the battlefield. Oh, and you noticed how he said he was a Navy SEAL during the Vietnam era. Does that mean you went? Were you in Vietnam? I was waterboarded.
Were we really part of the battle, though?
What?
I got to correct you on that one.
Let me tell you something.
Were we in the middle of the battle?
When you lived in New York City at that point, when that was happening, you did not know how far it was going. You didn't know if there were stories that there were 10 more planes in the air heading for where the fuck ever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were closer to the battlefield than Jesse the Body was. They just and I'm not just pointing him out. He's just one of a lot of people that have just completely forgotten what that feeling was. We need that feeling back. We need to take these people, maybe take a couple of family members and kill them in horrible ways so that they can feel that awfulness that you had, that violated feeling that everyone had on September 12th and onward a couple of years until people just fucking forgot it happened. Ugh, you people disgust me. Disgust me!
This is a wonderful rant, but you're going to do it in front of Jesse, right?
I will.
No holding back today, my friend.
I will.
This is all just a pregame until Jesse shows up now.
Here's what, actually, just...
The rest of the show doesn't even matter. Matter of fact, I would say go away for 3 hours and then come back when Jesse's here.
No, I'm gonna go into the studio and just record some sounds and then go home. Here's what you can play while Jesse is here. What? You're out of your mind. Get out of here. You forgot. Just play it on the soundboard, and I'll go home and listen.
Do the one, fuck me, fuck you.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
I love that one.
I use that one a lot in private life.
How about this one, too? Are you trying to tell me?
Yeah. I can't believe it.
Can you do the fuck me, fuck you?
Fuck me, fuck you.
And then... it's written this way, so I got to read it.
Oh,
Larry proves why he's a great interviewer.
Oh, God. Okay.
And finds out what a SEAL is.
Who wrote this?
Well, Sam. So
obviously.
Guess what? We're going to find out that Larry sucks at interviewing. All right, here's Jesse. And Larry proving he's a great interviewer.
I meant to ask you, you were a Navy SEAL, and they have a tremendous image. Was there ever a time in your life when you thought fear would overcome you?
Sure, the first time I jumped out of an airplane, I was afraid of heights. I joined the Navy SEALs so I would conquer that fear.
Why didn't you join the parachutists?
The what?
The parachutists.
Because I was 18, and at that time you joined the military if you wanted to.
If you were fear of heights, you could join the Air Force, be a paratrooper.
Air Force?
Well, I was a paratrooper.
Oh, they tell you that's part of the Navy SEAL training?
SEAL means sea, air, land, Larry.
Oh, my God, Larry.
Larry goes,
first
of all, join the Air Force and be a parachutist.
Oh, my God.
I don't know about that.
Wow.
I mean,
wow, CNN, you got a gold mine with this
like
Larry
airborne.
King.
All right.
Gold mine.
Why didn't you join the airborne? You know, and just be a paratrooper if you're afraid of heights and wanted to conquer your fear of heights. I understand the SEALs also do jumps, but like if you're just afraid of heights, you'd think you would become an airborne ranger or something like that, 82nd Airborne, but SEAL. Sea, air, land, Larry. How important is the parachute? When you were a SEAL, did you play honky tooty horns with your nose for fish?
Well, Jesse's coming in a little later. The big showdown. Last time it got pretty ugly.
Well, yeah.
And I'm sure it will get ugly again.
I've seen him once since then, at Red Eye, actually. He was doing a show before. He might have been, I don't know if he was doing O'Reilly or whatever. But, oh no, he was interviewed by Gutfeld on Red Eye, actually. And, I was on the panel and, we just said hello and it's pleasant.
Yeah. Hello, idiot.
Wait, you were on the same show as him?
No, but the way it works for Red Eye is like I'm the guest that sits next to Greg. So when a guest is brought in for an interview, I leave for that segment. He takes that seat.
No, gotcha.
And then I come back in after. We saw the show in the dressing room.
Wow, Greg didn't know what he had in front of him. The conversation that he would have had with you and Jesse.
Wow, well.
For his TV show. We got Jesse Ventura coming in.
That's right. I was a Navy SEAL.
It's going to be a big showdown. Big showdown.
Oh, God.
Going on a break. Ben Stiller came in yesterday. What is it? The museum movie opens Friday.
Night at the Museum 2, yeah.
Yeah, about the...
Ben Stiller was responsible for 9/11. Shut up. Can't wait till he gets in here. Everyone's involved in some conspiracy. Only he knows everything. He's the only guy that has this insight. You try to even discuss an opposing point of view with him, and instead of just discussing it, he'll try to turn, and watch, this will happen. He'll try to make it that you're stupid, you haven't read what he read, you haven't been a Navy SEAL, so you're in no position to even argue the point with him.
You're going to say this to him, right?
No.
Come on, you got it.
Crazy, insane, the guy's a madman.
I've read a lot of the same books he has, and he's just misrepresenting them.
All right, we're going to have some fun with Jesse. You know what you could do, Ann, to get ready for the interview? Duff McKagan soundboard, you could push that closer to you so you have some, protection between you and Jesse.
I could do that so we can't...
Start building your protection now.
Yeah.
We'll find some stuff. We could pile up the couches around.
Got to sleep sometime.
I hear him, but I don't know where he is. You're just behind this wall of stuff.
Maybe when Jesse goes to punch you in the face, you could jump over there and sing Mares Eat Oats and Dozy Oats and Little Lambs Eat Ivy. That was bombing, and I wanted to stop it.
Wow.
I couldn't.
Okay, faggot, what's next?
I'm going to remind Jesse that some people never got over their fear of heights. The people that had to jump off the top of the World Trade Center. They didn't get over their fear of heights by going to SEAL school.
Well, you could thank George Bush for that.
Yeah, exactly, because they were in on it. Shut it.
Right to his face, right?
No, I'm saying it now.
I think you're brave enough.
Once he gets here, I'll say I loved his work. And
no, I think you'll get riled
great,
up.
and
I
he's
think
fantastic.
You'll get riled up. All right, we got to get that.
Anyhow, okay, enough of that.
Hey,
Jesse
Duff,
Ventura.
thank you so much. Always a pleasure to see you.
Is he still the governor?
No.
No. I don't know.
He is insane.
Yes,
he's still insane.
And he's still very large.
Yeah, so you can't call him that.
No.
Don't. Oh, he'll see me out in the lobby now, though.
Yeah, you shouldn't have called him insane.
No.
Duff said that.
Well, as we walk out, I'll say that to Mike. Why'd you call Jesse Ventura?
All of a sudden, Mike goes flying from the 36th floor
I
window.
was a Navy SEAL. All right. Yeah.
All right, we got to get
We'll have Jesse in here in a minute.
Yeah, quick break, and we'll get Jesse in here.
Sure.
Opie and Anthony. It's the Opie and Anthony show. Very, very busy day today. In studio, Jesse Ventura.
Yes.
Promoting Don't Start the Revolution Without Me.
On paperback.
Oh, out on paperback. That's right. Oh,
Yeah.
you came around when it was out originally. Now
then they make you do it again when the
gotta-
paperback comes out. You got to come out and do all the shows all over again, and that's part of the obligation of when you write a book. If it's successful enough and makes it to paperback, you're happy to do it because it means the book was a success. If they take it to
And you got to
paperback.
write extra pages
Yep,
too, because
yep.
you got to give them a little extra,
Yeah,
right?
Yep. So I updated it now because, of course, I wrote the book, and the epilogue of the book is complete fiction. I write fact all the way till the epilogue, and then I switched over to fiction without telling you.
Oh,
It
really?
just becomes a murder mystery.
And I had to kind of remove that because I did a fictional piece saying that martial law, that I and Robert Kennedy Jr. are running for president, and that martial law is declared here, and they suspend because there's an attack of 6 of our cities, and they suspend the elections. And then I wanted to kill myself in the book, but Dick Russell, the guy who wrote it with me, wouldn't allow it, so I end up in a coma.
Why wouldn't he allow it? Did he thought it was too depressing?
No, he probably wanted to do another book with me, which we're now doing. So he figured if I kill... See, I created Jesse Ventura, so I felt I had the right to kill him.
No, that's true.
You know, since I created him, the public image of who he is, then who would have the right to kill him other than me? And that's what I kind of wanted to do, because when I moved to Mexico, I had no intention really of going into the public eye anymore. It was like a getaway to go down there.
Now, you obviously you spend a lot of time down in Mexico, I gather?
Yep.
Yeah. And you enjoy what down there as opposed to being
Well,
here?
first of all, the weather.
Well, I'll
Yeah,
give you
you know, you notice that I'm a lot tanner than all you guys are.
Yes.
You guys look pretty pale to me, like you need some sun. But then again, in New York City, the sun's hard to reach you here. You got to look straight up just to see the sky.
This is true.
Yep. And so, but I've taken up surfing. I used to do a lot of body surfing and boogie boarding, but now I'm trying to make the transition at this late time in my life to board surfing.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. It's a dedication. I often like to say this. Surfing is a lifestyle, and you must be completely dedicated to it. Imagine if you were that dedicated to religion. Would they call you a religious bum?
Hey, that's something to
Surf
think about
bum.
today. Yeah,
No, they call us bums. You're a surf bum. I don't like that connotation because it's a dedication and a lifestyle. It's a like I tell people, here's my life in Mexico. I can tell it to you in one sentence. I wake up every morning with nothing to do, and when I go to bed at night, I'm half done.
You can't compare surfing to religion because of the connotation. Surfing has done nothing but commit horrific acts and violence all over the world and murder people in its name.
Oh, yeah, and religion don't do that.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Hey,
no one's ever been murdered over religion.
what needs to be said about Mexico, you're off the grid, you don't own a cell phone, you're an hour from pavement, and you're an hour from electricity.
Wow.
But you pedal a bike?
And I went from the governor's residence to that, imagine.
Is it a nice house at least?
Oh, yeah, beautiful home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the taxes are marvelous down there.
I bet.
You know what my taxes are? I have a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath with a casita on the back. I have my own swimming pool, 30 of my own palm trees, and it's all encased in a wall thing, a 2.5-car garage. My property taxes down there are $400 a year.
Wow.
Wow.
And get this. Now, here's the better part about it. They get it and we don't. And I'll state it this way. At least in Minnesota. Now, I can't speak for all the states, but I'll speak for the one I govern. In Minnesota, the government and taxation, they penalize good behavior and reward bad. Case in point, your home. If you buy your home, fix it up and make it better like a good citizen, right? How do they reward you? You pay more.
You pay more, right?
So by using their analogy, you should buy the house, let it go to shit, be the worst house on the block, then they'll reward you. You'll pay less.
You know something?
Now, do you know how
I agree with Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know how it works in Mexico? This is embarrassing. We should be embarrassed up here. Do you know how property taxes work down there? There, they reward good behavior. Your property taxes are due in March. If you agree and pay them in January, they knock off 20%. If you pay them in February, they knock off 10%. March is normal, and then the fines start. Well, I pay mine on January 28th. Of course, February is a shortened month. So in 30 days, I'm getting 20% on my money. Tell me where I can do that legally. Mm-hmm. Now, we should be embarrassed that their system is so much superior to ours. Down there, they reward good behavior.
As far as, yes,
you
that
pay,
goes.
you pay early, you're rewarded.
As far as that goes, you're very true.
Yeah.
You're very right. I agree with that. But there are some downsides
certainly.
of living in, well, maybe not living in, and especially you. I mean, you obviously have the means
certainly.
to buy something nice down there. There are a lot of impoverished people down there.
Absolutely. But the thing that's good about it, when you go to Mexico, it's understood the government's corrupt. See, we're on an ego trip up here. We kind of like to think our government's not. I got news for you, people. We're as corrupt as any Mexican government. It's just that they're open about it. Down there, you know it. By the way, I have a get-out-of-jail-free card. I've been pulled over twice by the federales, the federal police, where they kind of hold you up for money.
Uh-huh.
All I do is pull out my governor's ID and say, I know Presidente Fox and Presidente Calderon. You just have a warning. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I've done it twice.
I bet that
Are
works.
you
2 times.
You worried about crime down there? Because Giuliani didn't even want to go without his own security. Do you have security with you? Or?
Never.
No?
I'm safer where I'm at. Are you kidding me? I've seen old women walking along the roads where I live, where I'm in far more danger in Minneapolis, Minnesota than I am in Mexico. Where the danger is in Mexico is the borders. Mm-hmm. And why? Well, let's go back in history. Who created the border towns? We did, the United States. We created Tijuana, Nuevo Laredo, Nogales, and all them crappy We're on Sirius Radio, right?
Yeah, you curse.
So I can curse.
Yeah.
We created all those shitholes, right? Do you know how? The prohibition of alcohol. When we prohibited alcohol, everybody that wanted to drink went over the border to Mexico to drink. Well, there came the prostitutes, there came all the bullshit. Now, the same holds true today. You have violence at the border. We all remember the Virginia Tech murders?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, do you know what the headlines were that day in the Mexico papers? It said USA 33, Mexico 20. It was like a sports score, because on that same day, Mexico lost 20 of their people at the border. The difference is ours only happens once a decade, like Virginia Tech. Theirs is a daily thing. And why? Because of the illegality of drugs and the prohibition. That's what, if we want to stop all the killing, then stop the prohibition. It seems to me in our country, we're more fearful of marijuana than murder. Because we're prohibiting marijuana, which is causing all the murders.
Is it marijuana, though, or the cocaine traffickers are the ones that tend to be really violent?
It's all of them. Because it's all lumped together with the cartels.
Would you want to legalize cocaine also and all drugs?
Well, when you speak legalize, let's remember, I think marijuana should be treated identical to liquor.
Absolutely.
Because I'll tell you, it's less.
I agree
in fact, it's a lesser of a drug.
Of course.
Because how many kids do we hear at college who binge drink every year and die?
Yeah.
We hear about it every year. Yet you can't smoke pot and die immediately.
Smoking is
now you might die in 40 years from cancer, maybe from inhaling the smoke, but it's not going to kill you that night. There isn't enough weed in the world that could kill you in one night.
It's also a personal choice you're making, too. If you want to smoke it and take the risk of cancer, you should be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and now, so to me, let's bring... I think Franklin Roosevelt said it at the end of prohibition of alcohol, and I think it's a great quote. He said,
I can't feel my legs?
No, not quite. He said, we can no longer afford to prohibit alcohol anymore. I say you switch alcohol and marijuana now and say we can no longer afford to prohibit marijuana anymore.
Right.
I saw, those little stores in L.A. where they sell the medicinal if you got a script?
Medical marijuana, yep.
I saw a story where they went into the guy, now it's all prescription, and it was a guy in a wheelchair, runs a little shop about as big as your studio right here. And they asked him, they said, how much did you pay with prescription-only pot in sales tax to the state of California last year? You know what he said? $300,000.
Wow.
Now, if it was legal like liquor, he would be saying $1 million. Now, in these economic times, isn't it smart to get a new revenue source?
Schwarzenegger's actually saying that, though. You, in a way, agree. I think Schwarzenegger's kind of toying with that idea.
Absolutely.
So you actually agree with Arnold on
He's
that.
in a desperate spot right now.
Exactly.
Oh my
Our
God.
whole country's in a desperate spot.
Apparently.
And wouldn't it be
How great would
smart?
it be that marijuana saves this country?
Well, it won't save it, but it's one of the building blocks. If you can get more revenue coming, and one thing is not going to solve the economy. You're going to have about 30 things to solve it, but this could be one.
How much more of the Predator cast is for legalizing pot?
I would say all of them.
Oh, right. Just checking.
I would say Sonny'd have to be for it.
Yeah,
Sonny
I
Landham.
think Sonny
I wouldn't
would.
think
Sure.
Sonny'd have no problem with it.
Sure.
I don't think Carl and Bill would have a problem with it.
Carl
Bill Duke and Carl Weathers.
Seems like
and
he might poke a little bit, sure.
Shane Black, who wrote Lethal Weapon, I don't think he'd have a problem with it.
Good. I just was a little curious on that one. Now,
Elpedia, now I don't know. Elpedia Carrillo, the Mexican girl.
Yes,
I don't know what Elpedia's spot would be on it.
Get to the chopper. It was
very good. I like that.
I've seen it so many times.
Get to the chopper.
Now we got to get into something because I'm agreeing with you on
so far.
everything you said so far.
So good.
All right.
But now there are a couple of issues, Jesse, where I think we part ways a little bit.
And what might that be?
That would be what I heard he's talking about on Larry King about Guantanamo. And the insurgents, the victims, the tortured people, the bad guys, the terrorists, the poor guys, whatever you want to, depending on which side, whatever they're being called.
Muslims.
This day. Muslims.
Well, we only seem to waterboard Muslims.
Well, when they're the only ones crashing in the building.
Oh, not true.
Well,
Timothy McVeigh and Nichols, why didn't we waterboard them?
Well, we kind of knew they did it.
Yeah, but many people felt there were more people involved. Shouldn't we have waterboarded them to find out? But we can't, can we? Because it's against the law.
Well, we did execute one of them.
They were covered under the Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
The insurgents, the victim, whatever you want to call
They
them,
should
they
be
are
too.
not. But they are not.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Our country is our country.
But it's
you go by the rule of, if you don't follow the rule of law when it's convenient, you must also follow it when it's inconvenient. Torture is illegal.
But there's a difference.
No, there is not.
There is a difference between people, American citizens protected by the Constitution, and wartime prisoners that are
protected
not
by what?
The Geneva Convention.
Exactly.
But they don't qualify for that either.
Only because that's what the torture people are using as semantics to get away with it. It's just like when they call it enhanced interrogation.
Right.
Oh, what a neat word to come up with that you can substitute for torture.
Well, it is a shame.
I've been waterboarded.
I heard.
I know that.
Yeah,
and it's torture.
Yep.
John McCain has been waterboarded. He said, isn't it ironic that the guys who have been waterboarded and the guys who have actually served their country are opposed to the torture, and it's all these pukes like Dick Cheney, who got 5 deferments from the Vietnam War. He's all for it and creates it because he never had to put his ass on the line, did he?
Shouldn't it be on the table? Shouldn't that be on the table, at least as a threat for information?
No, because the information's fraudulent. That's why I made the quote. You give me Dick Cheney a waterboard in an hour, and I'll have him confess to the Tate murders.
I understand.
Because when you're being tortured, you will say whatever it is to stop the torture.
Yeah.
So there's no credibility to what. Why do you think it's not allowed in the courts?
But the threat.
There are no buts.
The threat of a torture. Let me tell you.
Okay,
when you go public
then we
and say
stoop
we're
to their
taking
level,
this,
don't we?
I'm not saying. I'm not.
What's
even
next?
saying
Should we
torture
lop
them.
some heads off?
I'm not even saying torture them, but I'm saying to publicly say this is what we're never going to use takes a tool away. It's called the tool of fear, not actually torturing. Let's say, and believe me, I'm not even for that. But I'm talking with you here.
I know.
Why would a president or anybody else for that matter say we're never going to use this? It's a bad thing to tell the opposition what you're taking off the table, regardless if you use it or not.
Because that puts us above them.
But by
and
being above them,
if we stoop to their level, we're no better than they are.
But you know something, we are, because
we're not.
When we bomb places, we have to make sure there's strategic strikes. When
we don't.
When we have bombs
are you
that go
kidding
amiss,
me?
you know
How many
something?
civilians you think have
Lots.
died in Afghanistan and Iraq from our supposed surgical strikes?
Because war isn't perfect, unfortunately. We
That's
can't
right.
just kill the bad guys. That's why it's war and it's bad.
And that's why we shouldn't be in either one of them.
But I'm saying, Afghanistan too, we shouldn't be in?
No.
Why? Al-Qaeda are the people.
They could have turned him over.
Excuse me. We went to war with Al-Qaeda because they supposedly would not turn over bin Laden. That's all they did. Al-Qaeda, that's all they did. We said to Al-Qaeda, turn over bin Laden. Al-Qaeda said no. And that's why we're fighting them.
Well, the Taliban, you mean?
Yeah, or the Taliban.
The
Excuse
Taliban
me, the
was
Taliban.
They were the head muckety mucks lopping off heads and doing whatever they do. But don't you think that somebody had to be held responsible? And I know some of your theories on 9/11.
They're not theories; they're questions. And in our country, you're not allowed to ask them anymore.
You have theories, though.
No, I have questions. I have questions. That's all. Not theories. I have questions.
Your take on what happened is not what the official line is.
Right.
You feel...
I follow what Thomas Jefferson said. Dissension's the greatest form of patriotism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I dissent. I question my government.
I agree with everyone's right to do that. Absolutely.
But why does everyone get angry when you question 9/11? People get angry at you and they call you names. And they do all this stuff. And all I do, there's things about 9/11 that are very peculiar to me.
That whole day was a bit peculiar.
Yeah. And I do have a background, I think, in demolition. I was trained by the best guys we have in the country. And when I look at those buildings and I see how the cement was pulverized to powder, what type of energy could cause that? Not a simple fall.
Well, that wasn't
not a simple fall. Yeah, they said one floor pancaked into the other and down they went.
A lot of weight.
Well, how would that pulverize? 900 tons of cement into dust.
People are questioning, I think, because you do have the demolition background, the Navy SEAL background. How come it was like on September 12th or 13th? Like, you kind of came out a couple of years later. And I think that's what people are questioning. Like, there have been so many theories about it before.
Because at the time I was governor, I didn't have time to question it. When you're governor, that's a full-time job, believe me. And so it was after I got, you know what made me question 9/11? Here's what did it. After I got out of office and Bush said we're going to invade Iraq, I stepped back and went, Iraq? Wait a minute. The 19 guys they told us that did this, there wasn't one Iraqi.
Right.
Why are we going into Iraq? And that's when I started to question. I said, ooh, what's the real big picture?
But how did that make you change your view of the physical?
What's the real big picture here?
But you could question that, but it doesn't have to necessarily tie into 9/11. It could tie into Saddam Hussein tried to kill my daddy. That's pretty much what I think.
The point is, all of it wouldn't have happened without 9/11.
That was a catalyst because he was able to use the fear of terrorism and potential threat of Saddam Hussein, which turned out to be bullshit.
To lie to us.
I'm not gonna disagree.
Right.
That was the weapons. Big lie. Lie. But.
Well, if they'd lie about that, wouldn't they lie about other things?
Just because I lie to one thing doesn't mean I'm lying about a murder.
Okay,
I could lie that I stole something. It doesn't necessarily mean I would lie for something more important.
All right, let's go back to my generation. Mm-hmm. I'm a Vietnam vet. Now, I remember when the President Johnson got on TV and told us our boys are floating in the water for the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which is what got us into the Vietnam War, where 58,000 of my generation were killed, probably 1 million Vietnamese killed, who knows how many. And they've now come out and said that wasn't true. It never happened. Now, if they would fraudulently build up the Gulf of Tonkin incident to get us to war, you think they wouldn't fraudulently take us to war again?
In that fashion, I'm not too sure about that.
Really?
In the fashion of taking down two huge, very symbolic buildings, killing a lot of innocent American people, in that fashion, no. And the demolition thing, I like to, because you say you're in demolition.
I was trained by the best.
You know what it takes to wire a building that size for demolition.
Not much.
How would you do that in a working building?
Easy.
When you see,
Let me explain.
When I see them demolish buildings, they're drilling holes, they're planting, there's wires, cables.
All right. Great. First of all, the World Trade Center had construction going on a daily basis. Every time a tenant moved out, they had to redo whatever floor they were on. And I learned this from guys that worked there. They said construction was an everyday thing. Construction workers would walk in and out all the time. You want to know how to do it? Be the UPS man. Show up with your brown truck. You got access to every floor. You can carry boxes up to any floor. Who's going to ever question? You're the UPS
plant
guy.
Enough explosives covertly to take down two buildings that are 100 stories tall.
Do you know anything about the modern demolition?
I've seen many.
Do you know what super thermite is? Do you know what super thermite is?
No, but I assume it would be a very high temperature.
It's a highly explosive demolition that you can put on like painting the walls. It doesn't become a demo till it dries, and it can be made into paint. You could have people painting super thermite right here in the building, and they wouldn't even know it.
I would love to see a demonstration of it used to take down pillars of cement.
I can show you super
without
thermite.
Drilling into the superstructure.
I can show you super thermite. We just did it for a pilot I'm doing on True Channel. We showed super thermite simply painted onto I-beam steel and detonated, and it burned right through it. I-beam steel.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you a question just about 9/11? I would almost believe here as conspiracy theorist. Why go
the government is just a theory.
Let me just ask you, why wouldn't they just, to go through all that and go through the planes, why wouldn't they just bring the buildings down, take two trucks, however they do it, get them into the basement? If you can bypass the security at the airport, if you can do all that, you can get trucks into the basement. You somehow make a proclamation that Saddam Hussein has said he is going to attack a major New York city. That day, you drop both buildings. You A, kill a lot more people. You B, remove almost all of the X factors that can fuck you up, like a plane not taking off because of mechanical failure. Mm-hmm. And you give the entire entire American public a galvanizing reason to go into Iraq. Like, that is so much simpler and so much easier to control. Why wouldn't they? I mean, if they
I don't know.
Why not something simple? Why 4 airplanes and possibly more, and then you leave Zacharias Moussaoui to be tried? It's embarrassing.
You know, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and that's my point. Why is it that when you ask questions about 9/11, you're immediately attacked? Why aren't you allowed to ask a question about it? If you saw something that you don't understand, which there are many things I don't understand that day. Why June 1st? Did George Bush do an executive order changing how we respond to air attacks? Up until that point, base commanders were left to their discretion whether we sent jets up, and that happened like 170 times a year. Jets would go up in the air. Yet June 1st, through an executive order, no jets were allowed to go in the air unless it was cleared through Donald Rumsfeld at the DOD. So in essence, you could have a stand down simply by Rumsfeld not answering his phone. Because no one had permission to go up in the air. Where was our air defense that day? Here you had 4 commercial hijacked airplanes covering 2 to 3, 4 hours a time, and we didn't have one jet in the air. Yet, go back to do you remember Payne Stewart, the golfer?
Yeah.
Okay, Payne Stewart took off from Florida in a private plane. They went up and lost contact. Within 20 minutes, they had a fighter jet up on the wing. He said, they're slumped over. I can't raise them. They appear to be dead. He followed them to Nebraska or whatever. When they didn't hit Omaha, he let them go down. Well, this was a private plane out of Florida. And we had a jet up there within 20 minutes. Here you've got 4 hijacked planes and not one. Let's look at the government's theory, and I call theirs a theory too. They've never proven any of this.
But Jesse, you're saying 4. Hold on, you're saying 4 planes. Just not to interrupt you, but you're saying 4 planes. You remember too? They were up, and it was very, very quick. Like when the one plane went up, the bunch of stuff happened. A lot of people, the air traffic control wasn't exactly sure what was happening.
Yeah,
and the next thing you know, it's flying into a plane.
Because ironically, we were holding war games that day. Now, did the terrorists know this? And if they did, who leaked it to them? How did they know to do it on a day when NORAD is running these huge war games where it would confuse all the air? Remember the quotes from the air traffic controllers? Is this real or is this part of the war game? They didn't know. Now, that fits bad for us either way. Because either it was done intentionally or the terrorists got inside our government to the point of knowing when we run war games.
But didn't they call the plot?
So somebody's not doing their job here.
The plot was called Porsche 9/11, I believe. So they knew that they were going on September 11th. So you're taking into account, if the government's involved and there's war games involved, bad weather ruins your entire plot. Like, that's why I believe that the 19 guys caught this country with our pants down, and they used lax security.
Let me ask this. How are they able to identify these guys within 24 hours and yet not able to stop them?
I don't
they
think
had
they,
pictures on
you know
TV.
What it is?
Yeah, they showed us pictures.
Because they didn't try to hide themselves. They were on the manifest.
Well,
Their names were on the manifest.
Really? Who's seen the manifest? The government won't release the manifests. When have you seen them?
Well, I haven't seen the manifest.
No one has. No one has. The government won't release the manifests. Why? All right, let's go to the Pentagon. The Pentagon has over 200 cameras that run 24/7. Why did the government confiscate all those cameras, and why are we not allowed to see the plane hit? All you see is this little flash that they allowed you to see, yet the Pentagon has cameras all over it. And how was that plane able to circle for 40 minutes in a no-fly zone and not be shot out of the air?
Question.
And then it ties in. When Cheney was down in the bunker, and Mineta, the transportation secretary, testified to this in open 9/11. He said a kid walked in and said, "Mr. Vice President, the plane's 50 miles out. Mr. Vice President, the plane's 30 miles out. Mr. Vice President, the plane's 10 miles out. Do the orders still stand?" Mineta testified, and Cheney snapped around and said, "Of course they still stand. Have you heard anything contrary?" Well, what orders are we talking about here? And if he knew and was being a report that this plane was approaching approaching Washington, D.C., why weren't buildings being evacuated? Why wasn't it being shot out of the air?
Well, maybe
a lot of
they handled it.
questions
You're
like
right.
that.
They did handle it terribly, but I don't think
it was handled horribly.
That's implying that the vice president and the president know a plane is being crashed, and they're going, well, the plane's on schedule to hit the Pentagon.
All right,
That doesn't
hold
make
on.
sense.
Now here the plot thickens. Now Bush was down at that school, right, talking to the kids,
right?
And remember the 7 minutes he sat there frozen in the classroom,
right?
All right. The Secret Service is under the Department of Justice. They don't even take orders from the president. If they feel the president's in danger, they whisk him to safety. Now, the president's trip to Florida to that school was a photo op. So it was well documented he was going to be in that school. Card comes up to him and tells him a second plane hit, we're under attack. Now, planes are flying into buildings. 2 of them have done it now. Why did the Secret Service allow Bush to sit there for 7 minutes when, for all purposes, a plane could have been bearing down on that school at the very moment that he was in there? Who would know? We're under attack from flying planes. They knew he was there. He should have been whisked out of that room immediately. But it was almost like they knew.
I just think we had this perception that we were protected a lot better than we actually were. Yeah. We always had this perception that there were missiles on top of the White House and things would happen if something like this ever happened. But you know something? We just were not as prepared as we would have liked to have been. And like Jimmy said,
so a memo on August 6th that said the exact thing that was going to happen while our president was vacationing in Crawford, Texas. The memo of August 6th said exactly Osama bin Laden's planning to hijack planes and fly them into buildings.
And it was
I can tell you something.
Oh, yeah.
Had I been the president, 9/11 might not have happened because I would have responded to that memo. I wouldn't have gone on vacation to Crawford.
The other investigator that went down to the flight school and spoke with people that said this gentleman is trying to fly a plane. It's very suspicious. He doesn't fly very well. He's not concerned with landing. Like that to me is evidence also that this guy is a Middle Eastern gentleman that was flying a plane and pulling up red flags.
Let's look at the actual hijackers. Now, Osama bin Laden is a purist Muslim who goes by the old traditional Muslim. We'll all agree to that, right? Whether you agree with what he believes in.
What do you mean, the purist?
Purist. He's a Muslim who believes in the faith. Like we're the infidels, we should be out of their country and all this.
I think al-Zawahiri is more the strict religious guy than he is.
Well, both of them then, whatever. But these guys that hijacked, they were not strict to the faith. They were going to stripper bars. They followed him. Well,
they were following orders, whether they're...
But if you're going to go die and you believe in Allah and you believe in the purity and the sanctity of the religion and you're now going to die, wouldn't you live cleanly?
They're not very rational if you're going to take a plane and fly it into a building. So
they're flying civilians into a building.
But you're not listening to me. These guys don't fit.
They perfectly fit.
No,
they
don't.
They were fanatics. Perhaps not as religious as you would think they would be if they're going to fly into buildings, but you got to be a little cuckoo to fly into a fucking building with planes full of people. So, perhaps they weren't strictly adhering to this Muslim faith.
I would. If I were a religious person, if I was that religious and you're going to die, would you want to offend God right before you die?
They obviously didn't look at it like that. They look at it
you can't obviously say what they looked at.
Sure you can, because they behave that way.
Yeah, so they weren't. See, to me, they're not the followers of bin Laden and them because of their behavior.
I want a question for you. This 9/11 was 75% successful, according to what they wanted to do. The passengers overtook that final plane once they all knew for a fact what was happening.
I don't believe that either.
I know you don't. But
Cell phones don't work that high then.
But they were low. They weren't flying at 30,000 feet. But let's just say, let's say for the sake of argument, the passengers attacked. If the pilots are not trained to open that door and negotiate, if those doors are locked and that the first sign of trouble, they allow that woman's throat to be cut and they do not open the doors, 9/11 doesn't happen.
All right. Here's another one for you. You got 4 experienced pilots that were flying these planes, like the guy that flew the Pentagon plane, Burlingame, former Top Gun. Tough as you can get. Now, they have a thing on all commercial planes where all you've got to do is punch in some numbers and it's a code that you're being hijacked. Why did none of the 4 planes, none of them, that number was never punched in.
Probably because they were smart the way they did it. They would attack the stewardess, and the pilots were trained to open the door and negotiate, which is a horrible...
But they still would hit that before they would do anything. It doesn't require any words. All that does is send out to everyone who needs to know we're being hijacked.
Well,
none of the 4 planes did that.
Well,
Why?
didn't the stewardess say open the door?
And a guy like Burlingame... Guys that knew him said he would never give his plane up. He would die first.
So then how did they get it? I don't know why they didn't.
I don't know. He might have died first.
Yeah, but he was a tough guy. He was a karate guy. He would top in self-defense, all this stuff.
When you got a guy with a box cutter...
Oh, yeah, box cutters are real dangerous.
To a girl's throat, perhaps, then the guy isn't going to charge in and start fighting, knowing that somebody's life is threatened. You got to look, in hindsight, you know, if you think these planes are going to fly into the ground and everything like that, you're going to do whatever you have to do.
Okay, here's what we have to believe then, and which all of you do, that 19 Islamic hijackers armed with box cutters defeated our multi-billion-dollar air defense system that the Soviets couldn't.
And the threat of a bomb.
The Soviets couldn't do it, but these 19 guys, all while taking orders and conspiring with a bearded guy in a cave in Afghanistan.
Yeah, a billionaire who has funds and who has a network of people. He's not some broke guy. He's a construction billionaire.
Yeah, and in fact, you're correct there, because his brother Salem, he helped bail out George Bush on one of his horrible business ventures.
Them being tied in, I don't even disagree.
Oil families are a very small group of people in this world.
And George Bush is part of it.
Oh, he is. He absolutely is.
But he didn't orchestrate 9/11. So dislike him as much as you want.
I'm not saying he did.
No, I know. But
I'm just saying that if they didn't orchestrate it, I believe that they didn't do much to stop it.
19 guys caught the U.S. with their pants down because they first of all, they had the threat of a bomb, which everyone...
What threat of a bomb?
They said they had a bomb. People were calling on their cell phones saying that these Muslim guys or whatever they said or Arabic guys have hijacked us. And this is coming from people who were on the plane, and they said they have a bomb. That's how they stopped the mutiny from the passengers.
How did they get the bomb through security?
They didn't. There was no bomb. But that was what they.
You'd be that stupid on the plane? Wouldn't you if you were on the plane? I would think.
Jesse, you're different. You're not a businessman on your way to L.A. to do something.
No, I'm a governor.
But you're also a fucking wrestler and a Navy SEAL. You think differently than the average citizen.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Regular guys aren't 6'5". They can throw somebody through the window.
Pre-9/11, your mindset, if you're a regular average Joe flying, was if some fucking shenanigans happen, I'm going to sit in my seat, shut up, and hope we land and they, deal with this problem.
Because it had never happened.
Because it hadn't happened. If they knew right off the bat that they were flying into buildings, you would do everything you could. Every old lady would be scratching friggin' eyeballs out. That's, I think, the mindset now is what you're thinking, but it's hindsight.
The pilots would have done something. You tell me they couldn't have dipped that plane. If they knew they were going to be flown into buildings, they would have dipped that plane and dropped everybody. They would have lowered the air pressure.
Rolls if you want. Anything, but...
No, it had never happened. You negotiated, they would ask for the freedom of political prisoners, and you would land. No one had ever flown passenger planes into buildings. And the shitty intelligence, the lack of communication between the FBI and the CIA, that was all terrible. But that doesn't mean that it was a conspiracy by the U.S. government.
You got your ideas on it, in questions, like you said.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that what troubles me in this country is that on this issue, you're not allowed to talk about it.
But you are.
Well, no, without people insulting you. Now, you guys are different, but I get you get insulted.
You're right.
You get called Rosie O'Donnell. I've been called that now because I...
Hey, it's Opie from Opie and Anthony, and that does it for us. We're done. Go find someone else to entertain you. We're done. Ron and Fez, they're up next.
All right, hooray!
On the Virus, XM202, Sirius 197.
Hey, Jesse Ventura. A lot of controversy. We were in the middle of our Jesse Ventura interview. I kind of liked that it was more of a discussion yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
Everyone was hoping for the big, Anthony gets punched in the face, Kenny chokes out Jesse Ventura, that whole thing. Luck. And trust me, I was secretly hoping that there'd be some kind of confrontation. Not that you would get hurt, my friend.
Oh,
But it just makes for great radio.
I think...
but it was a good discussion.
Yeah, we did that the first time. Jimmy really and him got into a pretty good match last time around. This time it was kind of let him get his shit out without us interjecting a lot during what he wanted to say, and then we comment on what he said. It was more of a discussion, conversation stuff. But I was just... I was stupefied by some of the stuff this guy believes, thinks, theories. He pawns it off and tries to make it like, I'm just asking questions.
Well, he would be able to push his agenda forward a little better if he didn't get so crazy with his theories. Like, I think you should question the government. I wonder what the government knew and what they decided not to do, all that. I do wonder some of that stuff. But when you get to, you know how easy it is to demolish the buildings with that paint and this and that, I'm like, Jesse,
the exploding paint.
That's where you're losing so many people with your questions.
When I heard him come up with that exploding paint is what took down buildings, and they can go in there and paint it and then blow it up like a demolition crew would through weeks, maybe months of drilling holes and placing charges in structural beams. That's how they do it.
Right.
And he's talking about this paint. Well, first of all, you'd have to rip all the sheetrock off the walls and get to the beams to paint them if this exploding paint. It just sounded ridiculous. Exploding paint.
Let me jump in for a second, Ed, because all the conspiracy theory guys, they were losing the argument with exactly what you're saying. You're trying to tell me that they demolitioned this building while people are working full time in the building. So now in their minds, like, all right, well, yeah, I guess that would be crazy with all the dust flying and the holes being drilled. So then they had to come up with another way that it was done. And someone somewhere out there said, well, they got this paint.
Exploding paint.
And now it's solved that issue, that problem with their conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Because that was a little shaky, right?
Yeah. I was saying the exploding paint is on the shelf right next to the paint that you paint the tunnel that you can run through, and then the person behind you hits the brick wall. What kind of fucking fantasy land exploding paint is he talking about?
And wouldn't people notice if there was a big wick coming out of the paint?
Yeah, every wall's got a fuse sticking out of it.
Super thermite.
Super thermite.
But what I want to discuss is that... I don't know. I mean, the master computer, it is so stupid. We've been talking about this for a long time. This satellite radio is set up in such a way where we can't keep the channel live all day long.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre to me. So what happens is, why in between shows does it do that, Dan?
What's that?
Where the computer just, like, knocks us off the air.
That's all programming down in D.C. because we're still running off of XM's like scheduling.
But why can't they fix it? Where
they did? Well, you know what? It was there, and then we took it away, and then it was put back for some odd reason, and now it's gone again.
It is the dumbest thing.
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't know why it keeps going back and forth. I don't know who's making that decision, but it's gone now, so there won't be any kind of conflict like that.
There's a hard out at what 10:51.
There used to be.
Oh, we fixed it after yesterday?
As of yesterday. So today...
So we don't have to discuss this anymore. Finally, they figured it out. Okay.
So Rich Voss won't get interrupted, thank God.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Yeah, but at 10:51, the computer literally just takes us off the air to play promos and whatnot. And I never understood why, but that's what happened yesterday in the middle of Jesse Ventura ranting and raving. We all knew we were running out of show. We're like, uh-oh. I didn't think it was going to hit at 10:51.
I thought it was great. I thought mid-sentence in his babbling, it just went dead.
It did work nicely, right?
It really did.
We had video rolling, and the video's up on the Opie Radio YouTube channel.
As to what happened after the mics went off.
What I love is he's trying to continue, and you're being polite, but you can't wait to get out of here. You can't get out of here fast enough.
I got my coat on. I got my bag in my hands. I'm in running position.
Right. Jimmy's searching for a Sharpie. All he cares about is an autograph.
Thermite paint. Like, thermite. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Someone else pointed out that Danny's pushing Kenny out of the way. Just everybody wants out.
Yes. Yay.
Especially because he's here.
Yeah.
In general, when the show's over, we all want to just move on with our lives.
Right.
But yesterday, it just gives you a nice insight. And it's like, as he's just packing his bag.
That sounds great.
And Jimmy's getting all nervous, like, I don't know if I'm going to get my autograph. I don't know if I'm going to get my autograph.
I know, he's yelling about bomb paint. You want to leave?
So it's up there if you want to check it out. Let's say hi to Dan the Trucker. Dan, first call of the day. Welcome to Opie and Anthony. Hey, man.
What's going on, guys? Trucker Dan here. How are you?
Hi, Dan.
Hey, I was listening to
They got 2 weeks of free Howard. I didn't know.
Do they? I never would have known.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it was about 2 in the morning, nothing else on. I thought I'd listen in and stuff. They had Jesse Ventura on their show. I would have had Jesse on there, and then, of course, he was going ranting and raving with all of his lunacy about the waterboarding and the 9/11. And at least you guys contested some of the stuff. They were sitting there. Howard was calling Vice President Cheney a warmonger. They were just agreeing with everything that came out of Jesse's mouth. I couldn't stand it. I had to at least turn off during that interview. I mean, I turned it back on later on.
Anyone agree with
Howard
that nut?
Talk about himself.
You gotta question what Jesse's saying.
Yeah, it's outrageous. You have to question it. And they were just kind of like, softballing him and agreeing with him. And it was like, man, at least Anthony and Jimmy were giving him hell, about everything that came out of his
language.
Mouth.
Well, what you want to do is represent the other side because,
Yeah.